Hello and welcome back to the Level Up English podcast. My name is Michael, and today we are looking at some debate topics. We're going to be looking at these debates, but also talking about conjunctions. Another word for these are connectives. So these are aspects of speech, of a sentence that join and connect things together. So one example of this could be and, because, so, but, these kind of words. But, however, I will be using more advanced ones because I'm sure you know how to use but and. I'm going to be looking at some advanced conjunctions today. So the idea here is I've got a list of conjunctions and I've got a list of debate topics. So I'm going to be giving my own opinion on these debate topics using these advanced conjunctions. And I challenge you to do the same. Maybe use these conjunctions and share your own opinion as well. So let's see how this goes. I haven't got a script. I'm going to try to do this on the fly, which means without too much preparation. But let's see how it goes. If you want to get a bonus lesson and also read the transcript along with this episode, then you can find all of that at Level Up English members. If you want to try out the website, you can go to levelupenglish.school and click on the members button at the top of the page, and that is where you can see some of the content that I post and also see if it's a good fit for you. See if you can level up your English and improve your learning with the content that we put out over there. Let's just get right into this episode today. I think it's a great time to talk about these because a lot of you might be thinking about some of these, like let's start with alcohol. For some of you, maybe you're thinking, I'm going to make alcohol a resolution. I'm going to give up alcohol in 2024. Maybe some of you might be saying that. I think if you are, that is a great goal to have. Good luck to you. I'm sure you will see a lot of benefits. But the debate topic here is, should alcohol be illegal? I know some of you already live in countries where this is illegal. Saudi Arabia, for example, I think it's illegal there, right? So some of you already know this is the case. And I know some of the members at Level Up English have done some writing on this topic because one of our writing practice questions is this exact one. So it's really nice to hear people's opinions. And of course, opinions are shaped by culture as well. So my opinion will be shaped by the culture I grew up in, which is a very alcohol-heavy one. People love alcohol in England. So I'm going to say, regardless of the harmful effects of alcohol, I don't think that alcohol should be made illegal. The reason for this is because I believe that people have to make their own decisions as to what they do and the harmful things they do to their bodies, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. I do think that perhaps alcohol should be more carefully regulated and there should be more systems in place to stop people from doing anything too naughty with alcohol. I know it's possible to have cars where they don't start unless you blow into a tube and you can prove that you're not drunk. It would be a bit annoying if every car had that, but I think if it reduced the amount of alcohol-related accidents on the road, that would be a great thing. But personally, I don't really think that making things illegal is always the best way to go about things because people often find a way to get them anyway. That's my opinion, but I'm not going to hold that opinion too tightly. Anyway, the conjunction I used was regardless of. That's a nice advanced conjunction. It can be used in speech and writing as well. Of course, it's good for writing. So regardless of kind of means you're not being influenced by something. So you're not considering the potential downside. So I said, regardless of the harm, I don't think it should be made illegal. So I'm saying, I know it can be harmful, but despite that, that's another way of saying regardless of that, I I think it's fine. So it's a really nice way to acknowledge the other argument. Regardless of what you think, I disagree. So as with any of these topics today, please let me know your opinion. It would be great to hear what you think on these topics. This next one is a fun debate topic, and this is music is getting worse over time. Do you believe that music is getting worse? I know a lot of people might think that it is. A lot of people might think that music is getting worse over the years. I, however, would disagree. I would strongly disagree that music is getting worse over time. Personally, I'm not a fan of older music anyway. I know a lot of people like 80s music, for example. I don't really like any music from that time, to be totally honest. I don't quite understand why people like it so much. I do think we should understand that everyone has their own taste in music. Music is subjective, which means not everyone likes the same stuff, and that is totally fine. So I understand that a lot of music is quite strange these days and it gets quite experimental, and many people don't like that. Nevertheless, I actually think the opposite. I think music is getting better over time. The reason for this is because there are so many more artists today making different music. And honestly, the music that I enjoy are the ones where they kind of mix genres together, where you've got some rock and metal, and you've got some rap, and maybe you've got some classical, electronic. It's all in the same song. I love that kind of stuff. And this is something that just didn't really exist in the past. So now that technology is getting better and music creation is more accessible, I think we have so many more examples of great music. I would guess that if people do think music is getting worse, it's probably just because there's much more music. In the past, a lot of music sounded similar, but today you have to search for much longer to find music that you like, just because there's so much of it. That's my opinion. Tell me yours. The word I used here was nevertheless. It's one word, but it sounds like three words. Nevertheless. Really just kind of means however. I would say it's more common in written English, but as with any of these today, they can also be used in spoken English. So nevertheless means however, in spite of that, or just but. Very similar to but. It's a more advanced but. So many people think music is worse. Nevertheless, I still like modern music. So this next one might be challenging. This is the topic of giving money to homeless people. Giving money to homeless people doesn't help. This is quite controversial. Many people might have strong opinions about this on both sides. I do think that you can do some good giving money to homeless people, or at least some homeless people. There are some perhaps bad people trying to scam you and use money for other purposes. You have to be careful who you give money to, I suppose. But I do think that it can do some good. However, you might have to consider how that money will be used, and maybe think about if the homeless person is going to spend it on alcohol, for example, is that going to help them in the long run? It's hard to say. Likewise, giving money to certain charities may not be the best thing to do. Perhaps some charities don't use their money effectively, and a lot of the money goes to the rich CEOs and managers at the top of the chain, and not enough money goes to the people who need it. So honestly, I am on the fence on this topic. On the fence means undecided. I'm not sure what my opinion is, because on one hand, you want to give money that helps someone. But on the other hand, if you give someone money, it's their money. You cannot control what they do with their money. So you cannot control how they use your money. And honestly, if I were homeless, I might be likely to start drinking or even doing drugs, because when you're on the cold in the street every night, maybe that's how they cope. We cannot judge people in a very unfortunate and difficult position, can we? So I think the main idea here is that it's not fair to judge people who spend their money unwisely when they're living in horrible conditions. But I think my main view here is that your money or my money will go much further if I can donate to a charity, a homeless charity, rather than giving directly to the person. Again, it's a very difficult situation. It's one that I'm still thinking about. It's hard to know the answer, but I kind of just worded it in this way so I could use our word, which was likewise. I said likewise. Likewise means in the same way or in the same manner. It can kind of mean me too. So if I say good to meet you, you can say likewise. That just means me too. It was good to meet you as well. Likewise, me too. The way I used it was to talk about something in the same way. So giving money to homeless people can be difficult. Likewise, giving money to charities can be difficult. In the same way, these two things have something in common, right? So how can you use that one in your own example? Here's another controversial one now, kind of related to the environment and technology. Technology will be the cure to all our problems. That's a tough one, isn't it? That's a really tricky one. So I think it's quite a big statement. All our problems, that's hard to say, but maybe we could say it will be the cure to a lot of our problems. So many people might say that we need to reduce our dependence on technology because technology is making things worse. We've got factories and computers and phones that have batteries that are not good for the environment. Conversely, it may be the complete opposite, right? Conversely, technology has been shown to reduce the negative impact on the environment. And we can see this in history. So my personal opinion that if we allow technology to progress, that a lot of problems will be solved. I'm sure more will be created as well, but a lot will be solved because modern technology tends to be more environmentally friendly than older technology. I think it was in the 1700s where London was one of the most polluted cities in the world. And that was because we had lots of factories and industries and things like that coming into existence. And then we invested in more technology, things became more modern, and cars became more modern. And despite the traffic in London, the pollution is much, much less. And also in the river, right? The river was once incredibly polluted in London where it was decided to be a dead zone where things could not live in the River Thames. However, now it is considered one of the cleanest city rivers in the world. You will see fish, people can catch fish in the river. It's quite safe to do so. If you go swimming there, I think it's not too much of a problem, which is a huge improvement from the past. So I am quite optimistic that as technology improves, we can reduce some of the harmful impacts we have on the environment. Because, the other option would be going back to how we lived, 1,000 years ago with no technology, which it may be good for the environment, I don't know. But then we're giving up so much. We're giving up modern medicine and we're giving up science. And I don't think that's a world we want to go back to necessarily. That's just my opinion. Let me know your opinion. But anyway, the word I used here was conversely, another formal advanced word, which just means kind of the opposite of what was said. If something is converse, it's the opposite. Many people think this thing. Conversely, I think the opposite thing. That's how we would use that one at the beginning of a sentence. So have a go yourself and try and use that on your own. Let's do one or two more today. This one is very controversial. This is hitting your own children should be illegal. Hitting your children. So I know for myself and for many of us when we were growing up, it wasn't too bad to hit your children. However, nowadays, in many countries, it has become a big problem. And many governments are seeing this as a thing you should not do. In fact, there's a really interesting map you can find online that shows you countries where it's illegal to hit your children. It looks, according to this map, it looks like most of Europe, it is illegal. I think it's like Italy and Switzerland. it's not illegal, but most of Europe is illegal. And I think the UK recently made it illegal too. So you're not allowed to hit your children anymore. But I think it does depend on what country you're in. A lot of Asia and Africa and USA, Mexico, Canada, there is no law about this, according to this map anyway. So this is an interesting one, I think, because we don't want kids to be hurt, but also how much do we want the government getting involved into personal matters? There's that balance there. So here's my opinion. As long as the government doesn't intrude too much into our personal lives, I agree that this should be illegal. I don't think that kids should be hit by their parents. Personally, that's my view, and I don't think it has any good effect on the relationship between kids and parents. And I think, if anything, it just teaches children that if you have a problem, you can solve the problem with violence. That's my feeling. I don't have kids, but that's how I imagine it would work. So for that reason, I think it should be illegal. And I use the phrase here, as long as. So this kind of means on the condition that. As long as the government isn't too involved. On that condition, I think it should be illegal. Of course, if it went too far and governments were putting cameras in your house to see if you're hitting children, that is an invasion of privacy. I don't think that's a good thing. But if there's some other way where children can report the parents and maybe even prove that they are being hit on a regular basis, then I don't think that is a terrible thing. I don't think children should be getting hit by anyone. But that's just my opinion. Again, let me know if you disagree. Right now, I am Michael from the future. So I was just editing this episode and I realized I totally forgot to explain this word. So I'm going to edit myself in now and explain it. That is why I may sound or look different today. But the word I just used in that paragraph, in that debate answer, was as long as. Right? So as long as one thing is true, I will do this, we could say. As long as kind of means on the condition that, or provided that. So I could say, as long as it doesn't rain, I will go outside. As long as Michael uploads a podcast, I will listen. So on that condition, I will take a certain action. As long as it's not too hot, I will go for a walk. Okay, having said that, I will go for a walk. I'll give you back to past Michael now. Enjoy. Let's just finish with a mobile phone ban in the classroom. So it's been a little while since I was in school. I'm ashamed to admit that I'm getting older, like we all are. But this is, should we ban mobile phones in the classroom? I have no idea what schools do today. I imagine many schools already do this. When I was at school, phones were kind of beginning to get popular. When I was in my first year of secondary school, I had a black and white mobile phone. It didn't have a color screen, but it could play music. It had Bluetooth, so it could do some basic stuff. I think my first phone didn't have a camera, but my second phone did have a very small camera. So I was at that kind of perfect age where phones were getting more popular. And I think in my final year of school, probably the first smartphone had come out by then. And so some people already had the smartphone, and I thought, that will never catch on. No buttons on your phone? There's no way that's going to be popular. How wrong was I? But I think in my school, we were allowed to have phones, but we weren't allowed to use them in the classroom. I imagine it has not changed. I imagine that it's still not allowed, but maybe you're not even allowed to bring them into school. I don't know, but we could keep them in our pockets, but if we were caught using them, the teacher would take them away from us. And that was how it worked in my school. So my opinion may be obvious, which is unless the phones are being used for educational purposes and the teacher is aware of that, I think phones should be banned from the classroom. People are just too addicted to their phones these days, and it's not going to be useful for education, in my opinion. The word I used here was unless. Unless means kind of except if. So unless it's used for education, that means if it's used for education, that's fine. If not, then I think it should be banned. So unless it's used for education, they should be banned. What's your opinion on that one? So let's see if I can remember all the ones I used here as a quick review. I used regardless of, likewise, nevertheless, conversely, as long as, and unless. I think that's all of them. That's 7 altogether. How many of them were new for you? Maybe you know them all, but you could still do with some practice on some of them. So have a go. You can leave a comment on the website. I would love to see your answers and your opinions on these controversial debate topics. And don't judge me too much for my opinions, please. Let's go to a quick review from Apple Podcasts. This one is from France, from NH90FR. That sounds familiar to me. I don't know if this person left a review before. Either way, let's say thanks to them. They said, "Hi Michael, thanks so much for your podcast. I have learned so much thanks to you. Keep up the good work, please. So helpful." That is amazing to see. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you've learned a lot and I'm glad it's helpful. I will definitely keep up the episodes. I do not plan on stopping anytime soon. Let's get to 1,000. Let's share a quote to finish today from none other than Taylor Swift. So this is quite a simple one, but I think it's a really nice reminder. And this is, we don't need to share the same opinions as others, but we need to be respectful. I think this is such an important phrase, an important reminder today, because there's so much disagreement and trouble in the world these days. And even if someone's opinion is so crazily different to you, I think we need to be respectful and try to see where they're coming from. If you think, Michael, you're crazy. Music has got so much worse. Are you an idiot? No, that's not the best way to think about it. Try to think, okay, interesting. Michael has a different opinion to me. I wonder why he thinks that way. And this is something that I'm trying to do more and more and more. It's really difficult to show respect to opinions that we strongly disagree with. But it's something that I'm trying to remind myself to do. So I think if the world could do that, we would have a much more peaceful world as well. I'll leave it there. Thank you for listening or watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone. You have been listening to the Level Up English podcast. If you would like to leave a question to be answered on a future episode, then please go to levelupenglish.school/podcast. That's levelupenglish.school/podcast. And I'll answer your question on a future episode. Thanks for listening.